Hey everyone, welcome back to lesson 4 of Tana Fundamentals, where we will use the data we have added in the previous lesson, the is a and has a relationships we modeled in Tana, and we're going to make them work for us through the use of searches, live searches. We left the previous lesson with this list of books, and we indented references to these books under books to read here in the root node, books to read, and then reference them in. Again, you can see this based on the dotted outline around the bullet point of the respective books. But as your library grows, doing that manually would be tedious, right? Like that would be a lot of busy work putting all the references in the right places. And that's what we're going to use searches for. To get a list of nodes tagged as books, what we're going to do is that we focus our cursor here and we type Command K, and then we do find nodes with a tag book as list. And look what happens. We have a list just like we have up here, right? Without any manual referencing or whatever, but it appears from wherever we have put these books. So let's get rid of the old one here and delete that node, and this one we can rename. Let's call this just books for now. What's really cool is that I can add new books even from this live search, right? So if I enter a new node here, it immediately gets tagged as a book, and I can enter its title, River of Doubt, which is a book about Teddy Roosevelt. So if I expand this, you see I still have to manually add the fields that we created in the last lesson, and we'll cover a way of getting rid of that necessity of manually doing this in the next video. But for now, let me add the author, which is Candice Miller, so tagging her as the author, and the topic is Theodore Roosevelt, who we're going to tag as the US president. Now, you might ask yourself, where does Tana put these nodes like River of Doubt that I just created by indenting a new node under this live search? Tana puts these on your daily node. So if I go to calendar now, you see here it has added the River of Doubt node. I find this really useful because it provides some kind of temporal context of when I added things without me having to say, okay, I need to put this on the daily node page so that it's clear when I added this. Just add it wherever, and if you add it into a live search, it gets auto added to your daily node page. Now, one thing we have recorded so far is 3 pieces of information: the author and the topic, and that something is a book, right? In the previous lesson, we've looked at these lists in the table view. We had the title, the author, and the topic. One thing we can do in this table view in live searches is we can reorder columns, for example. I can move the column to the left, so right click lets me get this context menu for the different columns, but I can also filter, right? So I can also say, for example, show me only books written by Ron Chernow, and that immediately reduces the table view to books written by Ron Chernow. I can also select multiple authors here by holding Shift. So if I shift click here, I get books now by Ron Chernow and Doris Kearns Goodwin. I can clear the filter. I can also sort this table, right, by the name or by author or by the topic, whatever you want to have. And I can also select which user-defined fields I want or do not want to see, right? If I only want to see the author column, I can select this in the display column here as well. As I said, we've so far recorded 3 pieces of information about these book nodes, that they have this is a relationship with the book tag, right? So A Team of Rivals is a book. We have the author, so A Team of Rivals is a book, has an author, and A Team of Rivals is a book, has an author, and has multiple topics, Abe Lincoln and US presidents. One thing I like to record is my reading status, right? So did I actually read the book? Do I still want to read the book? Am I still reading the book? I think makes intuitive sense. So let's add a new column here and say reading status, and that will create that column for us. Now I can prevent me having to type and retype the different status labels that I want to use by configuring this field and saying that I want to have fixed options. And now I can add here to read, reading, and read. And if I close this panel now, I have here a drop down and say A Team of Rivals, I have read. Washington Alive is to read. Truman, I have read. The House of Kennedy, to read. And River of Doubt, let's call it a reading, just to have the different options here. What's really cool about Tana is that apart from the table view, I have multiple views for the search nodes as well, right? I showed you for normal nodes, you can enter different views in a previous lesson, but here I can also say view as list or as table. Right now we have as table, and I can select cards. Let's do this. I have now cards for every book, and you see here I have a group icon, now a group button. If I click that button, I can group by a field status. So I can say reading status, and now I have a nice Kanban board. Let me quickly remove the reading status not set here, where I have books that are to read, those that I'm currently reading, and those that I have read. And naturally, if I move a card from one column to the next, so from reading to read, right now, book River of Doubt has the reading status set to reading. I move it here, and if I click into it now, you see reading status is now read. So moving cards between these different columns sets the value of the column by which you're grouping, right? And that's really powerful for workflows, not just for reading, but for tasks, projects, whatever you want. You can really easily create these powerful Kanban boards that show the status of something based on different field values. So as you can see, Tana's search feature is super powerful, right? You can pull together all the different nodes from your workspace, no matter where they are. You can show them as a column, as cards that you use to make a Kanban board. You can filter, group, and sort that table to your heart's content. And yet, we've only kind of scratched the surface of what live searches can do. And before we get into the really deep possibilities here that open up extremely powerful workflows, we have to tackle one more thing. And that is that so far, adding fields to nodes was a rather manual process, right? So we either had to add the field manually, like we did on the newest book I added, River of Doubt, right? Or in the table view, we could add these fields to everything that was currently visible. But new nodes that were books, for example, did not have these fields, right? And to fix that, we're going to look at something that Tana calls Supertags. sounds cool, is cool, and it's what we're going to focus on in the next lesson. So talk to you then, see you there, and have a good one. Until then, bye bye.